Alright, so welcome to my first installment about C++ programming. C++ is a useful coding language, and it's actually the foundation of many operating systems such as Microsoft Windows, and it's actually part of the core base of Linux. Now, Linux is the operating system that I'm going to be showing the tutorial for, and things vary slightly between Linux and Windows. The language itself doesn't, but how you compile does. Because C++ is a compiled language, it can cause some differences in how you do it. For instance, in Linux, the easiest way to do it is through invoking G++, which is the native compiler, whereas in Windows, usually the easiest way is to get an IDE and it will compile it for you. But for a first basic program, and you don't really have to have any prior coding experience because I'm going to try to show you how to do most of it, you're going to put hashtag include, and then these weird little arrow key dudes, and then you're going to put iostream, and then close it off with another one. Now what this does, this tells it to use the iostream files, and iostream is in outstream, and it helps with printing text to the screen and accepting input from the user. In this library, it also includes using strings, and a string is a type of variable that can store text. So after that, the easiest way to do it, this eliminates the need to have to use weird code blocks or anything like that. You just put using namespace std, which is standard template design, and it templates everything so you don't have to use that anymore. Then you're going to declare your first function, which is going to be called main. Now to declare a function, you have to have a type, and which is going to be the return value. Ours can be integer or void, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to say always use integer main, so it'll put out a value whenever it finishes running. So now that you have that, you're actually ready to start coding. And following tradition, we're going to use the hello world prompt. So you use cout, which is a command found in that iostream library, and then you put your quotation marks, and then you write the text you would like to write. So in this case, we're going to do hello world. Now, here comes the fun part about C++. Every line that is not a function or an includer line, most of the time will end with a semicolon. The semicolon tells the compiler that that is the end of a line, that is the end of a command, and to do what it needs to do with that and to convert it into assembly and eventually down to binary. So now that you have that, it's actually ready, but as good practice, you want to tell it the value it needs to return, and because we didn't have any numerical or fancy operations set to integer main, it should return 0 or null. So now that we've got that, we actually have a full program that should display hello world whenever we use the terminal. So we're going to go ahead and in Sublime, which is the program I'm using, we're just going to go ahead and save it to our place, and this is going to be named HW for hello world, and then in Linux, this is very important, .cpp. CPP tells it is a C++ program. So that is very important, otherwise it'll save as a C program, because using this, the computer will normally recognize it as C at first. So I've just saved that into the directory I want it to be saved into, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize Sublime Text and open the terminal. Now, for Linux users, which I'm a Linux user, I believe Linux is very, very good and very advanced. It's, in my opinion, it's better than Windows, but you know, there's different priorities for different people. So we're going to swap to our directory that we just saved that in, which in my case, I just saved it to documents, and I always save mine to a folder called raw programs. And this is the folder I just keep all of my programs stored in. Now, here's where we're going to compile. Type in G++. This invokes the general C++ compiler for Linux. And then I want to name mine. If you don't use this, this is -O. This is using the linker. It's going to link a name to a program. Now, if you don't use this, that's fine, but it will just be named a.out. So I'm going to use -O because I want to name it HW. And then you put what the file is called, which is hw.cpp. Now, if everything goes right, if we haven't made any errors in our code, it should do that. It should just run and then give you a new line, If you get any errors, it means you have something wrong with your code, and it should tell you where it's at, and this makes it very easy to go troubleshoot your code. So now that we have that, we want to execute this as a program. So you put in Linux / whatever the name you just put is, and the name I just picked was HW. So we hit enter, and then we see it ran hello world. That's exactly what we were expecting it to do. And this has been your intro into C++ programming. It's very easy once you pick it up. It's a little bit of memorization. So at the end of this video, I want to thank Sublime Text because I'm using Linux, so I'm going to follow with the Linux theme. Everything should be free. That is the Linux theme. That most computer software should be free, so I'm using all free software for this. G++ is installed on almost all Linux distributions. I have here Sublime Text, which is the IDE I'm using, which actually has a cool feature. Once you finish saving it, if you save it as .cpp, it goes through and highlights and realizes what language it is, and it color codes the language for you. And then the last people I want to thank is the good people at Screencast, which offers a free screen recording solution. So this is the end of this video. Be sure to tune in next time, and where we'll handle variables and operations you can do with them. Thanks so much.